Hello, everyone. Just got that note card on there. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Buffy. Well, let me, if anyone would like the note card, let me grab it for you real quick, and I will share that. So you have our speaker notes for today's session. I would like to welcome everyone um, and sorry to be doing this the last minute. I had a little bit of tech difficulty, but we are good to go. Here's a name on it. And I will share it with the group. And if you don't want it, you just refuse it. Let's see. Here we go. Aha, we have a great crowd. There you go. And we do have slides available online in case you want to download them or use them for any of your work. And let me give you the links to those real quick. This is for today's slides. We also have a set for Saturday. Welcome to Interstellar Learning in Space. Now, I don't read well, so of course I'm going to deviate from my notes, right? But this is a vision of Interstellar. When we first walked through the portal, this is what we saw. What a breathtaking build. But the story does not begin here. Now, I'm going to turn the floor over to Andy Stricker in just a moment, but first I'm going to introduce them. I know Buffy gave us a little introduction, but Andy is an instructional architect with the Air University, and he's our mastermind for these activities. Let me go ahead and show you. That's a bio slide too, right? Now, if you have trouble seeing the slides, hold down your Alt key and scroll in. Click on the slide presentation and then just scroll on in so you can see it comfortably. Now, Andy served for 27 years as an Air Force officer. He also taught at Oxford for the Summer Institute. He taught quantum mechanics and intelligent agents. So he's really a marvelous individual who's an expert at cognitive psychology, at instructional design, and he scripts and he designs mesh. JJ Drinkwater, she's in the audience, but JJ Drinkwater is the librarian of Caledon. And Mr. Drinkwater is our inspiration at Virtual Harmony and of course in charge of our sci-fi library. And I met Mr. Drinkwater when we were together in the Lovers of Literacy group here in Second Life through Caledon. Those wonderful book readings. Now, I apologize, Barbara, if you gave me a different bio. I whipped up a quick one about her because, you know, I was Barbara's mentor in college when she was getting her doctoral degree, and she inspired me so much that we have continued to work together, and we are amazing collaborators. She's at the University of Central Florida. She too is an incredible, not just an instructional architect, but she's a connectivist, and she's all about appreciative inquiry and so many different ways of connecting scientists and people to help address really wicked problems like addressing cancer. And then I'm Cynthia Colongne, better known as Lobo. I'm a professor with CTU Doctoral Studies. I teach at 3 schools these days because I'm an adjunct. And of course, today's the last day of classes. So I'm a crazy woman, right? But I'm education chair of the Nonprofit Commons, and we'd like to invite you to join us. We welcome educators, we welcome nonprofits, we welcome everyone, frankly. And we offer free technology education on Friday mornings, tours in Second Life. Yo, Frankie. And see, I met Frankie and Barbara at Defense Game Tech in 2010, I think it was. And that's where I met JB Hancroft earlier, who spoke about scripting and memory in LSL. So I want to do a shout out to all these people. We're all connected in such amazing ways. Well, yeah, I teach, I conduct research, I play games. I play World of Warcraft in a big way. And then, of course, I like to design games and simulations. And I like to think about how we learn through them. Okay, I put up slide numbers so I could remember to flip my own slides, right? Here we are sitting in the Simone de Beauvoir salon at Virtual Harmony. But the story doesn't start here, but I wanted to show this image because this is how we spend our Sundays. You know how most people have a life on Sundays? And I mean, this is Sunday afternoons after all the things we do, of course, to honor our families in that day. We get together and we think about how to make learning a more compelling experience through these virtual immersive technologies. Yeah, you bet, Frankie. Oh, I better keep clicking, huh? And then, of course, many of us come from, well, it's Barbara, Andy and I went to high school and college together, and we grew up near New Harmony, Indiana. And Andy, I haven't given you a chance to say a word in edgewise, so this is your opportunity to chime in.
Okay, thank you. That was an awesome way to get us going. Thank you, Lear. As she was sharing, we come from this utopian community called New Harmony, and it's in early American history, people came really believing that they could create a new life that was based on ways that people could help each other, and they really believed in education. And some of the first public coeducational schools were created in New Harmony, and eventually it became a scientific community. And so the Smithsonian Institution in DC was based off of a laboratory in New Harmony. So we have quite a history of innovation and entrepreneurship, which I guess it's carried forward in the generation since. Back over to you, Lear.
See, I had a feeling he was going to say that. So notice how I typed it before I even said it. We didn't coordinate our talk, by the way. We have given so many talks. This is my 300th, that it's kind of like we can start a sentence and then he finishes it or something. and I love that level of symmetry. So Barbara joined our group. We met her at Defense Game Tech when we met Frankie at the very same time. Hi, Frankie. And with Larry Johnson of the New Media Consortium. Right? So if you're thinking about the Horizon Report, and I need to type that, because we do have folks who cannot hear, so please help me out here. If you, so we all met through this wonderful collection of thought, right? And Frankie had just finished her dissertation, and Barbara had done all her doctoral work, but then switched schools and started over with me. What an amazing thing, right? So here we are. We're sitting in sick bay, and all of us are there, and so are our fellow students. They're presenting their homework, their final project, right? And one group designed a spaceship with all these space games on board, and it was just breathtaking. They used the Star Trek LCARS database for the images. So it looks very authentic, and this was all custom design, except for perhaps the body on the gurney. So let's get off to space. We have to get back to Interstellar. So here we are, and JJ Drinkwater is sitting in the cockpit. And the day we did this, I showed up and I didn't have time to read my email. And every week there's something new, something marvelous, right? And so of course I get to the next slide. You can see the dashboard here. You can see all these buttons, and you're probably thinking, well, how do you know what to push? And see, that's the point of this. And Andy, I'm going to turn it back over to you. And I have 2 more slides that illustrate some more of this. But why don't you go ahead and tell us about the design of the cockpit?
Oh, thank you. Well, one of the things that we wanted to do was create these scenarios that were very interactive and bring a little bit of a mystery where you have to get clues and figure out what the purpose of these vehicles and instruments are. And so everything we've done over the past several years has been in the form of an expedition where you have to take a hero's journey and travel to solve a mystery. And so we teach STEM and in many cases STEAM, because they blend a lot of the STEM and STEAM areas together in our work. So here in this particular bucket, you have to put in the coordinates and get the systems turned on. And so you go through a sequence in which you prepare the rocket for destination to the International Space Station that we have. Over back to you.
Thank you. Well, JJ's sitting in the cockpit, and I have locked my camera onto JJ, okay? So I'm on the ground. I'm in the flight control room where instructors would be, and this is a student taking off. JJ's in the role, we're testing it, right? You see all these controls here? I double expose the image, and I'm so sorry I can't type this. I double expose the image, right? And so the upper one is how it might look before all is well, right? Until you're ready to launch. And you have to turn the knobs and flip the switches, and you see them all there. Just scroll in close, because let me tell you, it was enough to make my eyes glaze over, because you can't just flip them all on. They have to go on in a certain order. So let me go back to this. Did you want to say anything else about that, Andy?
Yeah, we have way too much fun with designing these things, but we're trying to reach a very broad age range and backgrounds. And so what we try to do with all of our simulation work is adjust it so that it has appeal to junior high, high school, college, and in many cases graduate level students. And so we try to create these simulations, have a lot of flexibility, and so instructors, facilitators can adapt them for individual use as well as group teamwork too.
Conditions look good. It's time to take off. So we've docked at the space station, and I'll show you an image of the space station later in the slides. And when we first dock, we take a few steps, and this is what we see. And I'm sitting there looking up, trying to figure out, do I want to go down to the crew commons module, or do I want to go down towards the Deep Space Explorer? Do I want to go to the crew areas where people can set up apartments, right? Over to you, Andy.
So this work builds off of an earlier simulation. It actually has this genesis in Second Life, the Mars simulation that NASA and JPL and the Air Force and Colorado Tech and University of Central Florida helped put together. And so we've continued to evolve this simulation over the years. And it's really become quite fun because as you'll hear about here soon, we go beyond Mars now.
Yeah, every time the news, the media, the technology, the scientists, everyone gets excited about something, like right now the excitement is about Mars, we start thinking beyond it, right? we never really stop. And that's what makes this so wonderful. It keeps evolving. And here's the crew commons. And inside the left path, you can see us all sitting around the table thinking about our next steps. I took a few images of us, and Andy kindly put those in some of the windows. It looks like we're peering in on ourselves, right? But it gives us this wonderful way to think about, what should we do next? What would a user unfamiliar with this do, right? With this technology, where would they go, and how would they solve the next problem? So now we head on down the right hallway, and we see inside a console, there's this system. And I'm actually going to pull up the next slide to go into that. We call it the Red Queen. And I'm not really giving a great image of it here, Andy, because I know you're going to feature it on Saturday to a certain extent. So is there anything you want to say about the Red Queen?
Well, that's been a really fun thing. We got some source code from MIT for an AI engine, so we plugged it in. So we have a little bit of fun with a system that takes your natural language input and analyzes it using a semantic tool, and comes back with various constructs on the types of topic areas that at that particular point in the simulation, the expedition journey, it's wanting to see if you understand those constructs. And so it gives you feedback and recommendations. And we've had way too much fun with that too. We've also integrated Unity into the simulation. So there's a Unity engine that supports the interactivity with the Mars network. So you interact with people through the Mars network to pick up clues as you journey towards Mars.
All right. I'm sorry for the delay. It's me unmuting and muting. And here we are at Space Dock, right? Excuse me, at the space station. We're about to take off, and I'm the kind of person who always sends my camera outside the spacecraft and has to know where have we been, where are we going, and how does it look from so many different perspectives. And he built all this. That's what's incredible. We didn't go shopping. We have this in OpenSim. Okay. So we're talking about an open source world. And I know educators are always saying, oh, this takes way too much effort, right? And it's possible it does, but Andy has no life. No, I'm teasing. Actually, he does. He has a farm and he takes care of the farm family after our meetings. So, and Andy, if you want to chime in any of these, just let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to get us to Mars and then turn it back over to you. So here we are, the quest for blue Mars. And this was our talk last year here at VWBPE, but we've gone beyond this. So of course, we're thinking about that. We're heading to the next area. And our goal, the reason we call it blue Mars, is to make Mars breathable, habitable, right? Which of course is not possible. And I know scientists say, and many of you in the audience are probably saying, ah, never happened. But let's face it, if you never dream and you've never stretched yourself to try new things and to rethink what we know, you never get there, right? So here we are. You see us landing, getting ready to explore Mars Station. I have also pulled my camera down into the planet. So I'm giving you a little peek at what lies beneath, right? Because I'm the kind of person who has to know what's behind the corner, what's in the closet, what's going on. So here we are. I changed the lighting to give a better sense of the red planet and the equipment around us because I had the lighting set to a midnight, right? So that the feeling of space through the simulation is more authentic. But I don't want everything to be midnight when I land, right? I want the atmosphere to be midnight, but not the ground. Andy designed all of this mesh and scripted it. Andy, do you want to tell us about what we're seeing here on scene?
Well, one of the things that I do want to say briefly is JJ that Mayor mentioned earlier has been absolutely fantastic in creating a rich source of information about the connection with science fiction related to science. How do we imagine the possibilities, the art of the possible, and plan for the future. So JJ has put together a wonderful set of resources around a science fiction author that we admire, that we highlight quite a bit in our work called Robert Heinlein. So what you see here is imagination at work. So when people come through the simulation, we kind of like to blend the science with these elements of the possible, and so they have a chance to kind of really have a little bit of fun with the effort that they're undergoing in the simulation, and then learn about so many different things in addition to the science, or learning about a variety of science fiction authors and how important it is to science.
Thank you, Andy. So let's see where we're at. Hey, we're headed to the red planet. And of course, I changed my lighting again. If you have never used the world menu and the environment editor to change your lighting, I recommend that you do, because you can have so many different experiences. And I'm always on the quest to figure out where should we set our default wind light, or whatever lighting settings we're using in whatever world we're in, right? So it is mysterious on Mars. And without a guide, how would you know what to do, where to go, what to touch? And we do have some perils. I didn't mention them here on the note card, but you might stop breathing, you know. So, because let's face it, Mars is not a breathable planet. So, these are things to be thinking about. So, Andy, I did show a little peek, but I didn't disclose any secrets. I'm just showing that, similar to the model you're going to show on Saturday, where you talk about the 6 levels, I'm showing a little cutaway into the planet's catacombs, right? And the secret areas that are important, you know, to accomplishing your mission. I don't want to give it away, you know, in case anyone decides they want to come out and try this with us. We will need people to help us test it because when we test it, we already have some influences, right? And so expectations. Well, Andy, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Why did we step through a Stargate to get to Interstellar?
One of the things that the simulation, as it's evolved over time, is we gradually introduce um, the realm of the imagination as you journey through the parts of the simulation. So eventually, as you just explore your way through the Mars station, you discover the Mars caverns. And so at this point, things can get a bit wild as you go into the caverns, and then you discover in your journey that there is a very secret lab that's inside the cavern that's actually looking at artifacts that have been discovered. And from there, it gets even crazier. You begin to actually look at a model that is being examined with some lab equipment, and the model is a bit of a mystery. I'll just share enough to say that the model actually comes from JPL, from a lot of research about the universe. And so all the way through this, even though it seems far-fetched, things that you're seeing and participating in exploring, a lot of it is grounded in science. And so, and then eventually we bring in a lot of common scientific and science fiction themes related to the origins of the universe and interstellar travel. And so eventually we have a lot of fun. Who cannot resist, right, the temptation to have a Stargate? So we have one of those. But what we do is you learn about the various constellations associated with the concept of Stargates. And so in addition to the fun, we try to teach science as well. So back to you, Lear.
Thank you, Andy. So let's see. We've landed at Interstellar. It's one of our latest grids. Now, here's the interesting part. For anyone who's worked in Open Simulator, and I don't know how many people have, but we're not just running regions. We're running at least 7 grids, not all at the same time. I think we run 4 at a time. But Andy, you want to tell us about that? What benefit that gave us?
Oh, sure. Yeah. We we try to keep things modular so that we can combine our resources and capabilities. And so one of the things that's really helped us to do that is we have a really good data architecture that sits behind all the grids, and also with our neural net that we run and our Unity applications. And they all use the same data sources, which is very, very nice because we can track an individual's progress across multiple levels of applications and grid participations. And we have dashboards that are web interfaced. So we have participant dashboards, instructor facilitator dashboards, and just a wealth of data. And so that helps us to really make things pretty exciting for people to participate in what we do. And it also gives us a lot of statistical data, for research. So we've written quite a few papers, and at this point, I think it's 2 books, or maybe it's been 3, multiple chapters anyway, but 2 full books about a lot of the work. So, Lear.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. We're working on a current books, and then of course there was a book chapter I wrote for an Oxford collaboration that we haven't published. I still have to do the final housekeeping, right? The giving permission. And so it's hard to keep track because we are so busy, but we love this. This is what makes this exciting, right? It doesn't feel like work. So Interstellar from a distance. Now I know I keep showing images of this build, but I just was stunned when we walked through it. And of course, we tested the devices and I whipped around and I looked and I saw something looming in the distance, right? The planet rising behind us. And I have to admit, I've always had a fascination with Saturn and with the rings. I don't know about you, but I've always found that to be a very magical thing. And to think of it coming so close, it just it felt like a wonderful place to study and to think about these big challenges. And of course, Barbara's research. I know Barbara today is unable to speak. She's having a technology, but we are fans of the Expanse. That's right. And then she has been working with transdisciplinarity, and I'll mention that word later, but think of it as the intersection of everything, of every topic and bridging people and connecting across boundaries and rethinking how we solve problems, right? Right now, I was determined not to mention coronavirus much, right? But you could play Fold It right now. How many of you know what Fold It is? Give me a yes or a no. I'm not good with this speakeasy business. Okay, good. We have a couple yeses. Green chili, you're good, good. And Buffy, I know you know because I'm always talking about it. Out of the University of Washington, right? You today, if you had a little bit of spare time, you could go set up an account, grab a little piece of a puzzle, grab a piece of a puzzle, and work on it. And if you didn't want to solve it, it's just that you just keep tinkering with it. But what you're doing is helping to contribute to solve the coronavirus puzzle. They're already on the third puzzle for coronavirus. And you may think to yourself, well, why would this matter, right? Well, I don't know if you recall, but it was either 2010 or 2011. Let's say 2011, because my memory of dates, you know what I mean? Um, gamers, the reports were gamers in 2 to 3 weeks solved the HIV protease. Did you hear about this? In those 2 to 3 weeks, and scientists worked on it, for 10 years. Okay, so how could gamers do that? Well, if you think about it, they don't know their boundaries. And they're only taking a little piece of the puzzle, and they don't have to have prior domain knowledge. So they don't have to, they're working outside the box. They're just working on a little bit of puzzle, right? Now, if you're not the kind of person who likes puzzles, right, then you could donate cycle times, a little processing time while you're asleep. That's like SETI at home. Remember SETI at home? Back in the old days when we would donate a little processing power? Yeah. So you might ask yourself, what can I do to help address this global problem that we're all suffering under and help make a difference? This is one way you could do it. And this is what we mean by transdisciplinarity, right? I'm going to type that word. I do show you later, but let's face it, now's the time, right? and and that's really what Barbara's research is about, is this connection of people across all kinds of boundaries and backgrounds who come together to tackle really wicked problems. And so this technology, visit foldit.com. That's literally the, it's not, there's no .com, it's just fold.it, excuse me. It's not Italy. It's out of University of Washington, and you could search for it if someone has a link or something. But anyway, it's a wonderful way, and they encourage ages 7 through, the max to participate. So we're not talking about, you have to be a chemist or a biologist or a geneticist. No, no, no. You could be 7 and participate. I think they do ask for a disclaimer for folks under 13 to make sure parents have given permission. But there we are. Well, I'll continue back with the talk, but I just wanted to put that out there. uh, Delightful's work, and Delightful Doowangle is Barbara Truman, by the way, for those of you new to our group. Spinoza Quinnell is Andy Stricker, and of course I'm Lear Lobo and JJ Drinkwater. But here we go. It is lovely, and I do. To me, transdisciplinarity here in the U.S. you would call it interdisciplinary, but that really is a parsimonious word for a really grand concept of how each of us can be empowered, right? How we don't have to think of our boundaries and feel restricted. That's what the beauty of the internet, of virtual worlds, of all this technology is bridging us, right? So here we are. I'll move back to the talk. That was my Corona moment. So we're back from Interstellar, and we're sitting here outside in the village of Loire, right? And we're relaxing, and I looked up and I saw that Andy had put this amazing artwork. I love Van Gogh's work, right? And how it just feels all around you, like you're having this experience through time and space. And of course, some of us have not been well the last couple of years. We've had some really great challenges in our group. And of course, when you're not feeling well, it's always hard to think about how you're going to create the next big thing, right? But here we are playing chess and being quite brave in the face of surgeries and strife and keeping our spirits up, which is really a strength-based moment. And so I just wanted to point this out that it's not all sunshine and roses. We all have to work very hard. So to remind us ourselves, and Andy, I'm going to put it back over to you because now we're going to move into the contemplative mind and thinking about the Knights of Loire.
Okay. Well, you know, we try to, help promote growth across the entire lifespan, particularly growth at higher levels of awareness of how we're all really interconnected and the world is a much better place when we reach out and try to do the right things and stay connected in meaningful ways with people. And so the contemplative research that's being done out of the University of Chicago, we really track very closely in terms of how does that really help you to acquire wisdom through your journey in life. We also track transcendentalism. We take a lot of the early American ideals around Thoreau and Emerson, and we apply that in our work. So we really want people to experience what it's like to come out in a virtual setting and experiment with new forms of connections and community. So I guess that's the spirit of where we've come from, our heritage with the Harmony Society. And so you'll notice that a lot of themes that, including, this area that puts emphasis on some of the historical figures throughout history. Loire is very special to us because it really puts focus on extraordinary women throughout history. And so when you come into this little French village, you get a chance to really learn a lot about women that you may not, have ever become acquainted with at some level. So every place you go in the village, there is a something that you can learn about regarding, the women that throughout history that have made a big impact, in our society. Back to you, Lear.
Thank you, Andy. And I've been chiming in there in the background. And of course, this is delightful. And am sitting there. Joan of Arc is in the background in one scene. And of course, we're thinking through the tough times that our world's going through and our next steps with our designs, our builds, our game simulations, everything we do. Can we strengthen not just education, but can we strengthen ourselves, right? And focus on wellness for everyone around us. Well, I went a little fast, so of course we have time to tell more stories, Andy, from this experience. And I do have an ad for Saturday, so let me get to that. I do want to encourage everyone to come visit us to get connected. And to tour and also to help us test these technologies. But on Saturday at noon Pacific, we're giving another talk, and it's the soul of a charioteer. And I'm going to pull up a slide here and let Andy tell you a little bit about the next talk and what we're going to be covering. It's going to feature some really wonderful technology. Over to you, Andy.
Oh, thank you. Well, this is our um, latest effort associated with research that's come out of Harvard, Columbia, and Stanford on um, professional development across the lifespan. And so for several years, they've worked with thousands of people in the medical profession, the legal profession, and profession of arms and divinity, and they've looked at what is necessary to help promote awareness of professionals regarding their growth throughout their practice. And so research by Donald Schoen and that have looked at the kinds of challenges that we have as we mature in our profession and dealing with complexity. So what we're going to talk about Saturday is what can you do with these kinds of virtual environments to help people develop in their appreciation for addressing the complex challenges that they're inevitably going to face as a professional. How do you keep growing? And so we bring this research to life in our simulation. So as you go through them, you have the opportunity to really learn about this wonderful, wonderful series of research efforts by these institutions spanning nearly 30 years now. And so invite you to come Saturday, and we'll talk about how we do it.
Thank you, Andy. And I want to thank JJ and Barbara and Frankie and everyone who's with us today sharing this information. And hey, a shout out to Pookie. Hey, thank you for the cookie. Oh, and hey, I see some wonderful names from the past. Sheila, it's so great to see you. Of course, and Ubit. Uh, Much of what we do would not be possible without Ubit Umarov, who supports us in Open Simulator. He's just amazing. And of course, um, we love using a variety of technologies. You've heard us say we started in Second Life, we continue to do things here, but our development, the reason it's an open source is because we're trying to bridge with so many worlds, so many different technologies, and we try to use open source as much as possible. And that's one of our goals, is to set up models that are replicable by other educators and useful beyond our use of it, right? Well, I'm going to move to the last slide here. This is featuring delightful Doowangle, Barbara Truman in OpenSim. And I wanted to invite everyone, if you're not used to teaching in World, I want to invite you to do so. I taught 52 classes here in Second Life, and I loved it. I taught one in OpenSim, and I really loved that because then I was controlling all my content. And of course, it's an amazing experience when you can connect and, of course, transform your world. Are there any questions for us? Hey, thank you, Pookie. I felt bad not mailing you directly, but the thing is, I don't get out. So, with all this quarantine business, I'm all set. I'm constantly working. So, you're trying to be yes, she is. Yeah, that's our Red Queen outfits that we wore for one of our presentations. And thank you to our virtual pioneers. Thank you to the ISTE Games and Simulations Network. I'm a professional learning network leader with them, and some of those folks that were here today or watching on the stream. So give a shout out to them. And then, of course, you heard Kay and Abacus Capellini speak earlier, right, on the metagame. And JB Hancroft spoke earlier on, his scripting tips and, of course, memory and how to work with limits and how to get the most out of your experience. So this has been a fantastic conference. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Any other questions or thoughts? See, Odalis raises a little white cat hand. You seem to have experienced so much already. That's true. But you know, we're still noobs at some things, Odalis, so we still have that fresh sense of wonder. So the
You
question
know,
is, what challenge or excitement is there still for someone so experienced? Aren't you getting tired of virtual worlds? Oh, I'm not. Andy, you want to take that one?
well, the the thing that's really kind of keeps me going is just you just never know what to expect. every every week is there and delightful and JJ, we all come together, which we've been doing this now for several years. Um, we constantly have new people come out and visit with us, and our students give us new insights, and so our whole spirit is, you know, just always willing to look at things from a different perspective and try things out. And so one of the things that we love about these virtual environments is it is really, a collaborative adventure where you're putting your thoughts together with others and seeing what is possible. I can't think of a more exciting way, because, academically, we've all have thrived through this kind of continual connectiveness and collaboration, which is very hard to do in the physical world, by the way. And so we certainly invite any one of you to give it a try. Find groups of people that you can get together regularly in these virtual environments and just keep at it. You know, keep co-designing and creating.
And that is one of our strengths. We collaborate. Not all of us are scripting, and not all of us are designing textures or doing whatever. I'm not doing as much building on Andy's project, but I do connected works, or I take his ideas and then I redesign them in other worlds. I how I got started, for those of you who are new, is my first summer in 2006. After I started in 2005 with a different avatar, and I took 58 classes here in World, and I learned all the basics of how does one design, trim-based design, texturing, animation, scripting, sound, everything. I had to know it all because all of that is a multisensory experience. Then to realize that anything, you can do an HTTP call, as JB mentioned earlier, to any resource that's out on the web. So now this tool is a connection. It's connectivism at its finest, right? Because all you have to do is you're limited by your imagination. Oh, I'm sorry. Do we need to run, Evelyn? I thought we had 2 more minutes, but anyway. Oh, okay. And see, I could talk forever, so that's why we have to keep looking at the clock. But what's amazing about it is I've taken 700 classes here in Second Life, okay? The little free 1 hour classes, and I built projects. Some of them I would take multiple times because I wanted to think about different ways people learn and different ways people teach. And then I volunteered with 400 eighth graders on the Second Life Teen Grid for the school, Suffern Middle School, the Ramapo project. And for 2 years, we had a total of 1,000 teen program. I learned so much because everything they do, they have to accomplish in 40 minutes before the bell rings, right? Class begins at minute 1, and at minute 40, the bell rings, they shut off their laptops and they run down the hall and they go to a different class and then they log back in. And we had them doing most of their classes here in a virtual world. And so whether it's English, whether it was geometry, whatever it was. And so it was really fascinating to me to be a mentor for that kind of program and to learn how to teach more compactly, if you will, so that I could have little nuggets that my doctoral students or my undergraduate students or my graduate students could easily accomplish in an hour, right? And so that became important. I learned all kinds of things through teaching in World. Okay, great. So we have 6 more minutes. So any other questions? Because that was a wonderful one. But Pookie, what this, and Pookie, by the way, she brought me in for the first question, which is a quiz show that's just amazing, right? And what makes it amazing is you don't have to know anything, really. You have to be trusting. You have to trust your audience. The audience hollers out answers, and you got to decide which one to very quickly offer, right? To win. And of course, I won. I was so amazed I won because I'm not well read about the news in Charlottesville or, whatever. And I don't mean recent news. I mean, like 8 years ago. Yeah. So, but the questions were amazing. Pookie has this delivery that's just magical. And if you're new to Second Life and you're not aware, at the award ceremony and the closing ceremonies, Pookie's gonna really set the tone for us. She, of course, is a famous videographer who tells these amazing stories through video and worlds, the machinima. But we all are connected. That's what's really breathtaking here. From all our industries, from all our backgrounds, from all our schools. And so virtual worlds, I never tire of them to finish that question, Odalis, because this is my world. I'm real when I'm here. I'm not, I have 9 different avatars, so I could be someone else if I wanted to. But it turns out all of them wind up being me. But and of course, it's a very rich experience. Yeah, absolutely, she is. I didn't start till 2005, and I have to admit, my first avatar, I kind of messed up a little bit, and then I deleted her, thinking, well, that'll be okay. Poor Nadia Normandy, right? Anyway, uh, yes, I love producing things and sharing them because that's the second thing, Odalis, is we have this generous nature that we want to share. And of course, many people share their early works because, hey, they're cast-offs or they were explorations of what might be possible before you get to something that is marketable, right? In my case, um, I love this notion that we can share thousands of copies of things with people, and we can give them permission to transform our stuff. I normally set up gift packs for you guys, but I do have a gift pack on our exhibit, which is 113, and I'll put some more gifts in there because I do have, okay, you guys gonna laugh? I have this cheesy, we have 2.5 minutes. I have this cheesy thing I made in like at Dr. Fran's classes. It's a staff, and it is a little cheesy, but it's fun. You got to have fun, right? And I'll wear it, and let me know if you want a copy of it, okay? It is an AO, and it has Gandalf-like animations in it, so you can say slash AO on, and then it has a little. You know how I love Saturn, right? I had to put Saturn with a little moon revolving around it and a few fireflies, And of course, you can use it dancing and then it swirls and does silly things. But this is deeply old school. So this is prim based, we're talking 13, 14 years old, so yeah. Whereas nowadays, everyone really loves mesh and all this really intricate stuff. I still love the stuff that a student can create, in class without prior knowledge. Okay, I'll share it with everyone, and then if you don't want it, just refuse it. Okay. Hey, there's a lot of people within range. If they're not in ear, they're going to be highly surprised, right? Anyway, when you wear it, and I'm not saying wear it right now, but later do a slash AO on, okay? Um, And then it has little settings on a note card, and they may or may not, they might need a little tuning. Who knows? You can throw your own animations in. You can have some fun with it. You can change it. You can put up a different planet. It's up to you. It's full permission. The scripts are too, so have fun with it. And thank you, everyone. I'll wrap at this point. I hope you have a wonderful conference.
Yes, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure and privilege to come out and share what we do at this great conference.
And the job's not done until we tidy, right? So there we go. I hope someone got a photo because I sure didn't. I well, I can't talk, type, run the slides, tweak the speakeasy, and think about, hey, what are we going to talk about next? Hmm. Thank you, everyone.
Voices, voices on now, everybody.